Speak on the Show 2022, episode 19. It's an unscripted Saturday, y'all. Civil, Ben Crump. Holiday Hate. Overturned. This is a Raid. January 6th committee analysis. Unknown Call. Where's the Protection? And Pardon Me. And of course, the Mind, Body, and Soul segment. Y'all ready? It's Saturday morning, y'all. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Y'all ready? Let's go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's your boy R.W. Coolins with the Speak on the Show. First and foremost, giving honor to God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm in a good mood this morning, y'all. I'm in a good mood this morning. Brian Hoodie, good morning. Appreciate the support, bro. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the support. I'm in a good mood this morning, y'all. I'm blessed and highly favored. Let's just be real. I'm blessed, highly favored. God has blessed me to see another day. And I get to come and speak to y'all this morning. So let's go ahead and get these formalities out the way and keep it moving. rwcoolins.com, that's the website. All social media platforms, RW Coolins. You can go there, search, follow, share, do what you do with all the other places you may watch, all the other things you may look at. But feel free to do that. And get some other people involved in these conversations we have on these Saturday mornings, every Saturday morning. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. That's what we do here on the Speak on the Show, talking about anything and everything. We're stuck a lot in the politics of what's going on right now because that's a main thing. We got an election coming up, so we're going to get in, continue with that, but we're also going to be branching out into other areas as we go. But rwcoolins.com, I said that. rwcoolins.com, that's the website. Also, we broadcast live on YouTube and Facebook this morning. After the show, you can download the audio on Spreaker.com as well as Apple iTunes. If you look, search on Apple iTunes, it's Speak on the Show. So go there, do your thing. Good morning. OT, my brother. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be epic, but it's going to be interesting. I don't know if it's going to be epic, but it's going to be interesting. That's what I do here on Speak on the Show here Saturday morning. Appreciate your support, my brother. Go follow OT. He's doing big things with these interviews of different people. So go follow him. I'm going to post his link and everything in on my RW Coolins page. So go follow that after the show. And he got big things going on over there. 844-904-2665. 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. Say what you mean what you say. If you call in, if you leave a comment, anything like that, all we ask is we come in as friends, we leave as family. Once you call into the show, once you make a comment on the show, your family ought to speak on the show. So that's what we want to do here. We want to make it a family environment where everybody's free to express how they feel about a subject, topic, or anything like that. No judgment. That's what we do here. We're just going to talk about it and have a discussion about it, because I am not the end all, the be all. I'm just a messenger. I'm just a messenger providing a message. Accept it if you will, reject it if you will, but that's all I am, is a messenger. That's all. I'm not here to judge nobody. I'm just here to give you information. That's all I'm doing. Oh, it's a good week, y'all. It's a good week. Let's go on and get into this and let's get rolling. Civil, Ben Crump. Everybody who doesn't know, or if you don't know, or you've been hiding under the rock, Ben Crump, civil rights attorney, Ben Crump. There's a Netflix documentary on Ben Crump that followed him over the last year from 2020 through 2021. And it's on Netflix. Josh Boyd, my brother. What's up, Johnny L? Good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate the support, man. Appreciate the support. Benjamin Crump, they followed him from 20 to 21. Years of 2020 to 2021, followed him in his everyday workings of what he's doing. And right now, he is the focus of anything dealing with civil rights if you need an attorney. Trayvon Martin case, Breonna Taylor, Andre Hill, George Floyd, Dante Wright. You can go down the list of cases he's been involved with as a civil rights attorney. I haven't seen the documentary yet. It's on my agenda to watch today. I was going to watch it last night, but I didn't want to rush through it. I want to be able to sit down and actually watch it in depth. Because I'm going to tell you this now. Let me just be transparent for a minute. The reason I'm curious about watching this is because in the beginning, I was not a fan of Ben Crump. Shut your mouth, RW. Yeah, I wasn't a fan. And I think I had a bias. We have our own personal biases, as we say. I had a certain bias towards him because it to me, in the beginning, and this is just me, when I first seen him on the scene of all these different cases he was doing and everything, he just didn't seem like he had it all together. I'm just telling you from my opinion. When I first seen him, he first came on the scene, he was doing some of these cases, and I was watching him in these interviews and everything. I was like, I don't know if that's the dude, man. Because sometimes, and let's just be real, and I'm guilty of just like some others, and I don't have a problem admitting it. Sometimes the way we speak or the way we perceive other folks to speak causes us to think that maybe the education level or different things like that is not where we think it should be because of how they articulate themselves. Let's just put it that way. And I'm not saying that's the only thing, but it was just something about him that just didn't garner to me. It didn't show me confidence in who he was as far as a civil rights attorney. But as I've gotten to read a little bit more about Ben Crump, I have the utmost respect for this brother. And as far as what he's doing, how much effort he puts in, and the time he puts in, along with his team. And on here it says his nickname is Black America's Attorney General. And it says, inevitably, the big settlements have brought on criticism of Crump, that he is exploiting Black victims for personal fame and gain. Fox News pushes this line of attack, claiming that he plays the race card for profit, as do more mainstream outlets. While interviewing Crump, Ted Koppel asked if his efforts to seek justice for victims of police violence would seem more cogent if he did it for free. Crump points out these cases are the least profitable among those that his firm takes on. Other cases involve environmental justice or banking while Black, for instance. So there's this argument about him taking these cases, these civil rights cases, basically, or the police brutality and all this kind of, and he said those are the least profitable of all the cases he takes. So I'm really interested to watch this documentary just to get an insight of his everyday workings and what he goes about and what he has to deal with. So for all you out there listening, I ain't got no stock in Netflix or nothing like that, but I would say watch the documentary so you have a better understanding of who Benjamin Crump is, what he's trying to do as far as these cases and what he stands on, and it'll give you better insight on them rather than us, as I did, to be honest, rather than us, as I did, standing on the sidelines, judging without knowing, judging without knowing. And I ain't got no problem admitting it. I was judging without knowing. Now I'm getting ready to get to know a little bit more. So that's what we're going to do. Holiday hate. Oh, boy, I tell you, this is something that, we talked about Juneteenth last week. And in conjunction with talking about Juneteenth, you heard me bring up Wilmington, North Carolina, where there was the coup on the government back there, back in the day. But when we talk about Juneteenth, people were torn about it being a holiday. People were upset. They thought it should have been more, everything like that and everything. But here's the thing about it. I don't see too many protests about President's Day. I don't see people up in arms about, well, there are certain, protests about Columbus Day because of what he did when he came here to the indigenous people, the Indians. I don't see too many protests, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. Yeah, there's protests about Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. But there was a lot of people who are upset about Juneteenth being a national holiday. Let's just be transparent and honest about it. And you feel the way you feel But unless you know the history, well, I'll put it this way. I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, and I'll put it this way. If people want to celebrate Independence Day, July 4th, 1776, for what it stands for in this country and what we know it to be, Independence Day, when the United States broke away from Britain and became its own United States of America, to symbolize what Juneteenth stands for the African American culture, should not be a problem if you're going to celebrate Independence Day, because if you recall, Independence Day did not observe independence for the slave. Let me say that again. Independence Day did not serve freedom for the slaves. So when slavery ended in 1863, but the people in Texas weren't notified until 1865, to be able to celebrate that was the end of slavery as we know it and as it was, it should be a celebration not only for people of color, but for people in this United States of America, because it showed, as much as you don't want to admit to it, people don't want to admit to it, it showed that there was progress being made as far as what this country was all about when they talked about the freedom in what the Constitution said and so on and so forth. Women's freedoms as well. So when I see things like this where you got people out here want to argue and fight and be upset about a holiday that celebrates Juneteenth, I have an issue with that. James Battle, good morning, my brother. Appreciate your support. Talking about your home state right now with that Juneteenth, Texas. But this week, or on Monday, there was an independent insurance company located in Millnocket, Maine. Millnocket, Maine. That tells you, number one, most of us don't even know where that's at. Is feeling the heat after employees placed a racist window sign on the door on Juneteenth. And it said, and I quote, "Juneteenth, it's whatever, we're closed." And this was placed on the entrance. And also, they didn't stop there. "Juneteenth, it's whatever, we're closed." Then under that, it said, "Enjoy your fried chicken and collard greens." Enjoy your fried chicken and collard greens. So Juneteenth, to these people that decided to post this message on their door of a business, have minimized Juneteenth down to being chickens and collard greens. That's all these people who decided to put this, I don't care how you look at it, that's all they've minimized, not only the holiday, the celebration, the significance of the holiday of Juneteenth and what it's all about, to chicken and collard greens, which means that they minimize they minimize the being of every African American on this continent, in this United States, who have slaves in their ancestry line, to being chicken and collard greens. Enjoy them to celebrate this holiday. See, I don't think a lot of people understand when we as a community get upset when we see things like this. It's because you minimize us down to a stigma that everything about us is about fried chicken, collard greens, watermelon, any other stereotypes you can think about. They break us down to that. And I'll give you another example, and I'm going to go off a little bit, but when people talk about Cinco de Mayo, does America not realize that you have minimized the Mexican tradition down to Corona beer and tacos on Cinco de Mayo? I'm just asking. This is just for me. See, when there's certain holidays that are brought up that are not quote unquote white holidays, they're minimized to a meal. Not a tradition, but a meal. Let that marinate for a minute. Think about that. For this woman to feel comfortable to post this on the front of a business to show they're closed and say Juneteenth, whatever. It's whatever. Let me get it right. Juneteenth, it's whatever. We're closed. Enjoy your fried chicken and collard greens. Now that's one that was posted. What about all the conversations that were going on in this United States of America about the celebration of Juneteenth? Yeah, some federal workers who get a federal holiday, they get a day off. They were still mad because they were getting a day off. Not because they were getting a day off, but because of the significance of what the day off was about. And then we hear people say there's no division in this country. There's no racism in this country. There's no black and white issues in this country. Okay. Insurance giants Progressive and Allstate slammed the sign and announced that they had severed ties with the agency. The agency was the Harry E. Reid Insurance Agency in Millinocket, Maine. So they did Progressive and Allstate. Progressive and Allstate said, "Nah, we done with y'all. We got too many other customers. Y'all go on about your business." Now, this is what they said. "We're committed to creating an environment where our people feel welcome, valued, and respected, and expected anyone representing Progressive to take part in this commitment," company spokesperson Jeff Seibel said. "The sign is in direct violation of that commitment and doesn't align with our company's core values, and code of conduct." Excuse me, y'all. Melanie Higgins helps run the insurance agency along with her mother. She took responsibility for the sign, but says she never intended to offend anyone. Never intended to offend anyone. That's the normal line we hear anytime things like that. I never intended to offend anyone. What was your intent then? Tell me what your intent was. Don't tell me you didn't mean to offend anybody, but tell me what your intent was when you decided to post it. That's what I want to know. What was your intent behind putting it up there? And this is what she said. "I would never purposely set out to hurt my mom's business at all. She had nothing to do with this. I truly apologize. I'm mortified that this is even happening. We are receiving death threats. We are receiving phone calls calling us really inappropriate words." No, excuse me, my allergies. I got this cough this week, so I'm sorry. Higgins also wrote an apology, which was posted on Facebook Wednesday, claiming she wrote the note when she was in a hurry to get home. She was in a hurry to get home, so she just put that up on the door. You were in such a hurry, you could have just stopped it at closed for Juneteenth, but you chose to put Juneteenth. It's whatever. We're closed. Enjoy your check. You had enough to put all that. You had enough time to put all that, but you didn't have enough time to think it through, because now you got to apologize for what you did, because you've lost business, because you lost sponsors. This is how it usually works. The after effects is where the apology comes from, not for what you did when you thought about doing it. Apparently, they say she posts lighthearted notes during every holiday, informing people that the firm will be closed. I wonder what she did last year, because last year was Juneteenth, was celebrated. Did she post a sign then? Just curious. She said, "I started making these types of signs when COVID-19 hit our area in 2020, she wrote, trying to make readers who are walking by reading smile in light of those dark times. I am sorry for any pain I have caused and the negative attention it has brought to our beautiful community." You were so eloquent in your apology, but you had very shortcomings in your initial response to the holiday. I'm just gonna put it out there. You know, it is what it is. Overturned. Roe versus Wade. This is shaking up a lot of things in the United States of America right now, and around the world. Let's just be real. The right for a woman to choose what to do with her body has been overturned. They've overturned Roe versus Wade in the Supreme Court. And a lot of people seen this writing on the wall when these Supreme Court vacancies came open, and Mitch McConnell held the one back that Barack Obama should have appointed one, and then that allowed Donald Trump, when he was elected, to put 3 Supreme Court justices on the Supreme Court, with the mindset that Roe versus Wade should be overturned. Let's just be real. In spite of the fact that they sat in front of the committee when they were going through their nomination hearings and said that it was settled law. Remember that. It was settled law, but they still chose to overturn it. And this was Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett Coney. These 3 sat in front of the nomination hearings and said that it was settled law, but all 3 of them voted to overturn it. Is that perjury? Well, as we know, there's no consequences. But Justice Clarence Thomas, the longest sitting Supreme Court justice at this time, because I'm not going to get into the Roe versus Wade thing. We've talked about that many times, but it's an overturn. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of states that you're not going to be able to get abortions, be able to get abortions in. There's certain states will accept it. They did try to knock down the law that says if you live in one state and you go to another state, you can be prosecuted when you come back to the other state, all the different things. It's going to have to clear itself out as far as all the different parts of it. But the Roe versus Wade overturning of that law is going to affect a lot of other laws, and I'll tell you why. This is what Justice Clarence Thomas said yesterday. Justice Clarence Thomas argued in concurring opinion released on Friday that the Supreme Court should reconsider its past rulings codifying rights to contraception access, same-sex relationships, and same-sex marriage. Let me say that one more time. Justice Clarence Thomas argued in a concurring opinion released on Friday that the Supreme Court should reconsider its past rulings codifying rights to contraception access, same-sex relationships, and same-sex marriage. In his concurring opinion, Thomas wrote that the justices should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell, referring to 3 cases having to do with Americans' fundamental privacy, due process, and equal protection rights. Pay attention to this. Pay very close attention to what's going on here. The fact that they were able to overturn Roe versus Wade, 50 years of Roe versus Wade. And now they're talking about, he brings up in his argument on why it should have been overturned, stepping out same-sex marriages, same-sex relationships, and contraception access, which means birth control and different things like that, Plan B pill, all that kind of stuff. But what he's saying to you is, now that we've gotten this one out the way, which is one of the ones that they thought would never fall, that was one of the hardest ones they were going to be able to overturn, be very cognizant of what's coming down the pipe. Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act. Those are the 2 main ones I'm concerned about off the top of my head. Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, and the third one, Affordable Care Act. 3 main ones to protect a multitude of people. When you talk about gay marriage, same-sex marriage, and all contraception and all that kind of stuff, those are important as well. Don't get me wrong. But you got to look at the impact of the Voting Rights, the Affordable Care Act, and the Civil Rights Act. These could cause a major ripple in how and what happens in this United States across the board. Because if they're free and feel free enough, because what they base their overturning of Roe versus Wade on is not in the Constitution. It's nowhere in the Constitution about abortion. It's not in the Constitution, so they were able to overrule it because the Constitution does not state it as being fact. Voting Rights Act, voting is in the Constitution. However, how your vote counts is different. Blacks were only counted as 3/5 of a man when they voted. Women weren't allowed to vote in the Constitution. You had to own land and only be a white man, by what the Constitution says. This Roe versus Wade is just not something that we should look at lightly. It's not something we should look at lightly. Justice Sam Alito repeatedly insists that the justice's decision to abandon Roe poses no threat to other precedents. Our decision concerns the constitutional right to abortion and no other right. Nothing in this opinion should be understood to cast doubt on precedents that do not concern abortion. Now, when you feel the need, because I've never heard them come out and say what it's not going to affect, it's only going to affect this. When you come out and say that, that lets me know that there's some grumblings or rumblings behind the scenes amongst you, justices, about what else you can overturn. And everybody may not be on the same page, but there's discussions. At least one justice is planning, this is what somebody wrote, and this was the 3 justices that dissented, Breyer, Sotomayor, and Kagan. At least one justice is planning to use the ticket of today's decision again and again and again. Still, no other justice joined Thomas's concurring opinion, which largely reiterated his long-stated views on the legal theories behind many of those decisions. So Clarence Thomas is the one driving this car. You know, Jenny's husband, conspiracy theory Jenny, her husband, the one who should be, you know, pulling himself away from certain cases, the one that should be in ethical violation for what he did as far as dissenting against releasing the presidential records because he knew his wife's name was in there. You know that Clarence Thomas? Yeah. When we talk about voting matters, talk about voting matters. You know, it's something about when you decide to go vote for president, we don't think about the ramification of who that president may put in to be a Supreme Court justice, which is a lifelong appointment. We don't think about that at the time, but now that we understand and we're starting to read more and learn more, we get a better understanding that whoever the president is at the time, Democrat or Republican, that decides to put a judge in there that has his mindset and his thoughts, these are the type of things that happen. And it's not about affecting a few, it's about affecting many. And you have to pay attention. And as hard as it is to say this, I'm just going to put it out there like that. Terrence Collins, good morning, my brother. Happy Saturday. As hard as it is to say it, I'm just going to say it this way. When you get a chance, when you find time, if you're interested, I want you to go back and I want you to pull up Supreme Court justices of the United States of America. And I want you to look at the list of people they are. And then I want you to pull up presidents of the United States. I want you to look at the list. And I want you to pull up vice presidents of the United States and look at that listing. And I want you to pull up Speaker of the House. Look at all those people. Speaker of the Senate, you know, majority speaker. Look at all those people. And I want you to see what resembles what in what you're pulling up. At this time in this country, and some may take offense to this, but it is what it is. If you get offended, then you're not looking at the facts. We have people governing this country at this time that are between the ages, majority, if you do an analysis of the ages, between the ages of, I'm going to say 60 to 80. 60 to 80 years old. And the majority of them are 60 to 80-year-old white men. Don't at me. Read for yourself. Majority of those men are 60 to 80-year-old white men. If you're watching the committee hearings, you see them, they're in the FBI, they're in the DOJ, they're in the Congress, they're in the Senate, they're in the president, they're all over. And that's who's dictating what goes on in this country at this time. Because we choose to keep putting the same people in these positions when we go to the polls because we don't do our research. And because they are backed by these lobbyists who have their best interests at hand through these senators, congressmen, presidents, or whoever, that's why we keep getting the same results. If you take a poll, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. If you take a poll of people that are between the ages of 40 to 60, I'm just going to put a broad range, a 20-year age difference from 40 to 60. And you ask them if they feel that the overturning of Roe versus Wade was a good thing. Knowing from my experience and what I know about Roe versus Wade and abortion issue and things like that, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the ages of 40 to 60 would not agree with the overturning of Roe versus Wade. But if you ask them what would be a different way of doing and going about the abortion issue, I guarantee those 40 to 60-year-olds will come up with solutions that would make more sense than just saying not at all. Because there's different caveats to that, but they're looking at it one way. And that's the problem. Their way is the old way. And we keep putting them in office year after year after year. And then we wonder why we're in the situation we are now. This inflation, these gas prices have nothing to do with what any of us did. It has to do with the fact of businesses and big businesses trying to recoup their losses from during the pandemic when when the cities were shut down. And the bureaucrats up in the House and the Senate can blame the president all they want. They can point the fingers at the president all they want, but their lobbyists that they deal with every day are the reason for the inflation. While they sit in their $1 million homes, continue getting their 200,000, 300,000 lobbyists money coming into them to make them millionaires when they walk out the door. While we have people out here struggling at minimum wage, they can't afford gas, can't afford the rent. Inflation is going up, groceries are going up, so on and so forth. But they're not concerned about that. They say they are, but they're not. Brian Hoodie, like the children of Israel, I guess we have to wait for that generation to die off. And that's the bad thing about it. It's the bad thing about it. When you really look at it, that's the bad thing about it, that we have to wait for them to die off because we haven't done our due diligence. Not that we could have changed everything, but we've gotten too comfortable with the people up there because of name, not because of what they stand for and what they do. It's a sad state of affairs at this point. Sad state of affairs. We got to be cognizant of what's going on around us, and we can protest, we can march, we can do all that, but the ballot box that they're trying to change, and like I said, Voting Rights Act, pay attention. Pay attention. Now let me get into something else that shows you where the mindset of these people are between the ages of 60 to 80. This is a raid. Not a no-knock warrant, but a raid. They knocked on your door and told you what they was coming to do. Jeffrey Clark, you know, the one that was doing Donald Trump's bidding and everything. They raided his home the other day, took all his electronic devices and everything, and he's in uproar. He said they put me out of my house in my PJs early in the morning so they could raid my house and take all my electronics, because this is the person that Donald Trump was going to put at the highest level as the attorney general, acting attorney general, to do his bidding so he could stay in office. Jeff Clark, who, if you listen to the committee the other day, said he is just an economy guy or an environmental guy, has never tried a case, has never written a case, has never, none of that, never defended the case, anything like that. But Donald Trump, in his pursuit to stay in the office of the president, was going to appoint this guy to the highest level at the Department of Justice as the attorney general. And now he's upset, Mr. Jeffrey Clark, because they raided his house to take the electronics, see what his communications are and everything like that, which they do all the time. And see, people, let me get this straight. If you ever notice, the ones that complain the most are the ones that have the most to lose. The ones that complain the most are the ones that have the most to lose. Because by what he did, the fake electors and all that kind of stuff with him and John Easterman and all that kind of stuff, if you've been listening, he has a lot to lose. He's looking at time. But the problem with this is there's been raids going on, no-knock warrants, all that kind of stuff, where they go in and pull people out of their house in their drawers. You know, we had a story in Chicago where they raided a woman the wrong house, and she stood there. She was in the shower when they busted in, and she was butt naked, and no one offered her a towel. They handcuffed her and everything, and she stood there butt naked for 30 minutes before anybody found the sense to put a blanket around her. And he's complaining because they put him out of his house after they knocked, told him what they were there for, asked him to step out of his house in his pajamas. That 60 to 80-year-old white man range, this is him. Feels that he's above the law. Feels even though he did something wrong, he should not be treated in this manner. Just saying. Clark is a key player in Trump's effort to leverage the Justice Department to help him stay in office. Investigators believe Clark may have used his former position as an assistant attorney general for the environment and natural resources to persuade election officials in battleground states to change their state's results in favor of Trump. In December 2020, Clark helped draft a letter to Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, basically claiming that the Justice Department had identified significant concerns about election results in Georgia and advised Kemp to create a separate slate of electoral college electors supporting Donald Trump. Now, here's the kicker about this. Jeffrey Clark was subpoenaed by the committee last year, but he refused to comply. The committee voted to refer Clark for contempt charges. So he said, I'll come see y'all. He eventually sat down with the committee, but he invoked the Fifth Amendment over and over and over again. He invoked the Fifth Amendment over and over and over again. So he showed up so he wouldn't be in contempt of the subpoena. But then when he showed up, he pleaded the Fifth over and over and over again. You can read between the lines. You can read between the lines of what that's all about. You can read between the lines. See, this is where when we sit back and we watch this January 6th committee going on, and we listen to the stories that are coming out of it, it really has you to sit back for a minute and look at you as an upstanding citizen of this United States who tries to obey all laws. You may go over the speed limit by 5 miles an hour, which is breaking the law, but ain't nobody gonna arrest you. 5 miles an hour, 10 or more they might. But as a law-abiding citizen. And then you look at this hand over here, where you got people within the government doing shady things like this and feel they're above the law and they shouldn't be rated by their own FBI and everything like that. Why? Because of where they sit, because of how they look, because they think they're above the law. This could go many different ways if you really pay attention to this thing. Because you know, my thing is, and I brought this up to somebody the other day, and this is a comparison I don't like to do, but I just brought it up as a comparison to ask the question. In Atlanta right now, there's a group called YSL. And I don't know what it stands for. Don't if anybody knows, chime in. But it's YSL. And it's some rappers. Gunna, Young Thug, I think is the names there. I haven't read too much up on it. But they're being charged with RICO charges. It's like 26 people being charged with RICO charges, racketeering, murder, so on and so forth. 26 people, they're behind jail, they're behind bars until the trials come up. All these things that the FBI in the state of Georgia Attorney General has charged these people after a long investigation. And then you have these people who are appointed or have jobs that are in the Justice Department, congressmen, senators, people working in the White House, all these people that work within the government, because they're government employees, that are still walking free and have been subpoenaed to come and speak. I don't recall many people that I know that have been charged with things. I'm not going to call them out because they're friends of mine, but they've been charged with things at times. We all got them. Don't act like I'm the only one. But I don't recall them being given the opportunity to turn themselves in, you know, pick and choose when they come and talk to you, or have an opportunity to walk the streets freely until they decide that they want to come and talk to you and tell you what's going on, what the case that's going on. Normally, I see them being arrested on no-knock warrants and so on and so forth, and thrown behind bars and held behind bars until it's time for their case to come up for them to see a judge and so on and so on and so forth. But it seems to me that there's a different set of standards for people that work for the government at that level. And I'm still trying to get an understanding of why there's these two different judicial systems depending on where you sit and depending on who you are and depending on how you look. Now, a lot of people say, well, you know, that's just the way the system is. No, that's not the way the system is. An arrest is an arrest. A warrant is a warrant. From what I know to be true. I don't understand it. And I probably never will. But I probably need to read more and get more into it. But in the justice, in this, you know, January 6th committee this week, we seen two former attorney generals, and I think one of them was an assistant attorney general or something like that. They were all acting at the time. But they came up and they spoke exactly where they were coming from, what went on behind the scenes, where Donald Trump was calling them to do this and do this and do this, and they pushed back on them, and they were going to resign if you put Jeffrey Clark in place and all this type of stuff. But my biggest question is, with these people coming forward now, because there's a trial going on, if they knew these things were wrong at the time, why not speak up then? Why not let everybody know about it then? Because I know when I was active duty military, they said, see something, say something. See something, say something. Just like when, you know, 9/11 happened and they had these terrorist threats and they was out there, see something, say something. And it still goes on today in your neighborhood. Why? If you see something, say something. But it seems like these people that have information about what was going on behind the scenes don't ever say anything until they're choked, until they're forced to say something. And then we put them up on this pedestal. Oh, they testifying. They're going against the grain. They're saying what went on behind the scenes. No, they're saying what went on behind the scenes because they have no choice now because they want to clear their name. That's the difference. Just like I talked about Mike Pence last week, where you had the president okay with the vice president being killed by a bunch of rioters, a bunch of insurrectionists. And he clearly said that. But then everybody wants to put Mike Pence, oh, poor Mike Pence. How did the president turn on him like that? He was loyal to him. Yeah, he was loyal to him. But if you look at everything that went on during the Donald Trump presidency, while Mike Pence was the vice president, he was loyal to him, but he wasn't loyal to the Constitution at that time. Because if he was, he would have spoke out a long time ago about what Donald Trump was doing, even though he was the president and he was the vice president. See, that's the thing is we get caught up, we put these people on a pedestal because they choose to speak at a certain time. But if they just spoke at that time, a lot of these things may have been squashed before they got anywhere. So people putting Mike Pence on this pedestal, pull back on that. Pull back on that. William Barr, pull back on that. All those people that surrounded Donald Trump that want to come out, write books and speak now, pull back on putting them on this pedestal like they're coming forward. They're patriots. No, they ain't. No, they ain't. They the go along, get along gang. That's who they are. And everybody wants to put them up there because they're speaking against Donald Trump now. And it's gonna hurt their careers and everything. Like, I don't care. What's more important? You always talk about the country. You always talk about the patriotism. But it's only brought up when certain people look a certain way when you throw patriotism in there, that they're not loyal to the country. Case in point. It was voiced this week that this videographer that was doing a documentary on the Trump family had an interview with Donald Trump while he was on a plane. And during the interview, while he was supposed to interview him on the plane at the time, they came back and the chief of staff came over and said that the interview couldn't happen today because the president was on the phone, is what Holder told Politico. He said, I believe, if I remember correctly, that he said he was on the phone to the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, which is why the interview had to be postponed. No official readout of such a call was ever made public. Trump spokesperson Liz Harrington, in a statement to Insider, pushed back against the claim. This is a totally made up story, but it doesn't stop the fake news from running with another Russia hoax, said Harrington. Now I'm going to say two things on this. Number one, why would this documentary videographer, Rennie Allens, good morning, appreciate support. Why would this videographer have a reason to make up a story? He has all the footage of what went on for the last year or so. He was supposed to do this interview in October of 2020, October 25th, 2020. They were on a plane, they were flying somewhere, but it was canceled. And they're saying that Donald Trump was on a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. But they're saying that it didn't happen, which is the same thing they said that the call to President Zelensky never happened until the audio came out. And just like they said that they never released the information from a meeting that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin had at one of the summits back in the day, that they never released the transcripts on. So why is it hard to believe that this happened back in October of 2020? The track record speaks for itself. And this is what it says. On the day of the apparent call, Trump was busy campaigning in New England. Holder said the call to Putin was made while on a flight from New Hampshire to Maine. Politico noted that at the time, Trump was pushing baseless claims that his opponent in the election, Joe Biden, had profited from dubious business deals his son, Hunter Biden, had made in Ukraine and Moscow. And at this time, Putin that day had dismissed the allegation and was quoted in Russia's state media reports just before the alleged call, saying that he saw no evidence of criminality in Hunter Biden's business dealings in Ukraine and Russia. Leads me to believe that the phone call probably was made because he was hinging on Vladimir Putin, saying that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden were involved in some corrupt things with Ukraine and Russia to try to help catapult him to the presidency again. Yeah, you're going to call. Speculation? Maybe. Track record show it? Yes. Unknown call. Let's see how that runs out. Because there's a lot of things that have been going on that we ain't know about that we're finally finding out about. But, I'm just a messenger, as I say. Where's the protection? And this right here bothered me more than anything this week that I seen. To see two African-American women who could have been my mother, my sister, my grandmother, my auntie, sit in front of the Congress and let them know how their life was threatened because of a lie. Let me get to this comment right here. Ethan Johnson, good morning, Brother Rod. Did you touch on Supreme Court Justice Thomas early in the show? Yeah, bro, I touched on him already. You can go back and listen to it later on, or you can call me, either one. Appreciate the support, though, bro. So, Wandrea Shea Moss and her mother, Ruby Freeman. Let's just call her Shay because that's what she enjoys. That's what she addresses herself as Shay. Shea Moss and Ruby Freeman. As I sat there listening, because I heard different stories, but it's different hearing it directly from them. And I heard them talk about this at the hearing. Shea Moss and Ruby Freeman were vilified because Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump chose to put their names out, that they saw them take a suitcase of a bunch of ballots and move them and remove them, saying that they were Donald Trump's votes. They also said that they showed her handing her a USB drive to download something on the computer, which was a lie, which they said was a piece of ginger that her mother was giving her while they worked these elections. Now, these people, Ms. Shea Moss and Ms. Ruby Freeman, have worked elections for years, have never had any complaints. Shea Moss even went into the description of why she does it. She likes people. She likes helping people and showing them how to do their voting and how to fill out their absentee ballots and all the things that you can think of that go along with voting. She enjoys doing that because she considers herself a people person. She enjoys doing it, and she understands the significance because of her grandmother and her great-grandparents who explained the importance of voting. So her being a part of the process, she took pride in that until this election. Death threats, people beating on Miss Ruby Freeman's door, trying to break in and kill her. And I want to make sure that I get exactly what was said to Miss Freeman, because she called 911. She called 911. And this is what she said. She said, "Oh, they screaming. They still banging on the door." This is her talking to 911 call. 911 dispatcher says, "Okay." Miss Freeman says, "They still banging on the door. Lord Jesus, where's the police?" The 911 dispatcher says, "They are on their way, ma'am." Freeman, "Oh God." These are her statements from the 911 call. "There were people in Georgia beating down her door for a lie that Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump and all the Republicans choose to run with, to say that they were doing something that they shouldn't have been doing with the votes in Georgia. And this white mob, let's just call it what it is, went to their home because Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani made it a point to put their names out in the public atmosphere through Fox News and anybody else who would listen. And someone in there made a statement, and I want to make sure I get it right. Ms. Moss described the threat she's been getting since Joe Biden fairly won the state of Georgia in 2020. A lot of threats wishing death upon me, telling me that, I'll be in jail with my mother, and saying things like, be glad it's 2020 and not 1920. Be glad it's 2020 and not 1920. These are the death threats and the phone calls that Ms. Shea Moss and Ruby Freeman were receiving from white voters in Georgia who believed the lie that they were stealing votes and hiding votes and took a suitcase full of votes for Donald Trump out of an election location. Now, here's the other part. Miss Freeman, I mean, Miss Moss. No, Miss Freeman, I'm sorry. She said it was horrible. I felt homeless. I felt, I can't believe this person has caused this much damage to me and my family. To have to leave my home that I lived there for 21 years. And I'm having to have my neighbors watch out for me, and I have to go and stay with somebody. It was hard. It was horrible. Two Black women who did nothing wrong, who were working for the continuation of this government that self-identified patriots claim to love, were forced to flee their homes in the face of a falsely informed, possibly murderous white mob, in part because the FBI, which reportedly didn't even call local law enforcement on their behalf, said it couldn't protect them. Now, I want you to think about that now. They knew there were death threats. They knew that the president and Rudy Giuliani had put their name out. They knew that white mobs have been going to their houses and everything. And the FBI says they couldn't protect them. But wait a minute. They got Supreme Court justices being protected because somebody chose to threaten one of the Supreme Court justices. You get all this protection for all these other people that are in government. But these people, Ms. Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman, who are just doing their jobs, who are being threatened by white mobs, telling them to be glad it's 2020, not 1920, and they can't get protection. And the FBI didn't even alert local authorities that these things could be coming down the pike so they could get protection. And they didn't even evacuate her. She had to leave on her own to live with someone else during this time. Shay Moss said in her testimony that she was scared to go to the grocery store, with her mother or her grandmother, because she was worried about them calling her name and somebody hearing her name and doing something to her in the store. She also mentioned that since this has happened, she has gained almost 60 pounds because she's fearing for her life. She doesn't go anywhere. She doesn't do anything because of the threat against her life over a lie. But we want to protect all these congressmen, senators, justices, but we can't protect two people who were lied on by a president and his lawyer for something they did not do. Let me say this, and I don't want y'all to take the equivalency the wrong way, so I'm just going to say it the way I say it. We in this United States have more value of the treatment of a damn dog than we do those two young ladies, African-American ladies, women who are just doing their job. We have more protection for animals in this country than we do for those two women who were just doing their job and got lied on by the president of the United States and his lawyer. And for all the news people on Fox News that chose to put their names out there, and for all the people in Georgia who chose not to protect them, who are police and the FBI, you have more protection for animals in this country than you did for those two ladies. Those two patriots of this country. Let's put the word patriot there because they're out there making sure the right to vote is taken care of the right way. And because somebody chose to lie and say they were doing something dirty, you allowed an animal in this country to be more protected than those two women. Take it how you want to take it, but it's fact. And then in the same breath, we're all equal. Equal justice under the law. Pardon me? Pardon me? So it came out this week, and it's been talked about a while. But there was a bunch of pardons that were being talked about being given to a bunch of people who had anything to do with the insurrection or anything doing with trying to overturn the government. And let's just break it down. The only reason that we actually have something in writing that shows this happened is because Mo Brooks, congressman from Alabama, lost his reelection campaign. Donald Trump went with another candidate, and now he wants to tell it all. He even told the committee, I'll come talk to y'all, but under these conditions. And I want it to be televised. So now they're putting stipulations on what they want to say, how they want to say it, and want to come forward. because they're not being supported by the man they support. So this week he came out and he released a letter. And the letter he released says, as such, I recommend that President give general, quotation, all-purpose pardons to the following groups of people. Listen to this now. Every Republican who signed the amicus brief in the Texas lawsuit against other states deriving from the violation of Article 1, Section 4, and perhaps other provision of the United States Constitution. Every congressman and senator who voted to reject the Electoral College vote submissions of Arizona and Pennsylvania. And he also sent this text. This email request says it all. There was a concern Democrats would abuse the judicial system by prosecuting and jailing Republicans who acted pursuant to their constitutional or statutory duties under 3 USC 15. So he actually did a letter up, and he actually sent an email after the fact saying that he wants this to be done because the Democrats, they were scared the Democrats are going to go after all of them. But they wanted to pardon every Republican who signed the amicus brief in the Texas lawsuit. And deriving from their violation, now listen to this is important. Deriving from their violation of Article 1, Section 4, and perhaps other provisions of the United States Constitution. So he's admitting, and she's be real now, he's admitting that they violated Article 1, Section 4. Any of the Republicans who signed the amicus brief violated Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution. What's going to happen to them? Now, here's what's jumping out at me with this. We haven't heard of there being any pardons given. However, and I went and read this yesterday and I started looking, trying to figure out. There could be secret pardons that Donald Trump could have done. The only saving grace that we have as United States citizens that these people will not be pardoned for what part they played in this insurrection is the fact that you can't pardon someone for something that they haven't yet been prosecuted for or have not been tried for. Matt Gaetz, for one, who's been under investigation since last year sometime, he actually asked for a pardon for anything he's ever done in the past up till that day. That tells you they're guilty. They know they were wrong. So these people that are asking for pardons, and from what I got in here, and I didn't go over it, but from what I read, it said, I'm trying to get it. Hold on. I think there was about something to the fact of about 147 congressmen and senators total that they were seeking a pardon for. 147. 147 people who knew they were wrong, who sit up there, and now they're asking for a pardon. I didn't get it in my thing. Their total number. But anybody who was involved in the amicus brief and anybody who had anything to do with the insurrection, we're asking for a pardon. Now Mo Brooks is willing to spill the beans. Why? Because he didn't win re-election and Donald Trump turned against him and voted for some and endorsed somebody else. That's how it works in that good old boy network. I don't make this up. This is how it goes. Just how it goes. And that's the sad part about it. These people know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And when things don't go their way, that's when they want to fold and try to do something different. Let's get into this. Mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul. The year 2022. We're taking it we're enjoying every moment. 1,440 minutes you get every day. That's in that 24-hour period. You get 1,440 minutes. We're breaking it down into moments. Enjoy the moments in the totality of what you get to enjoy each day when you open your eyes and God has blessed you with seeing another day. Today's mind, body, and soul quote is, I got two of them. I'm trying to, You can't judge my choices without knowing my reasons. You can't judge my choices without knowing my reasons. You know, there's a lot of times where we see people do things that we don't agree with. Let's just put it that way. We be like, "Ooh, he shouldn't have done that. That was a bad decision on his part, and I don't know why he did that." And "Ooh, I can't believe he did that to her, or she did that to him," and so on and so forth. We all sit back and, as I mentioned many times, on here, we judge. We choose to judge, and maybe we just say criticize. Don't criticize my choices. Just say criticize. You can't criticize my choices without knowing my reasons. The reasons we do things, many folks will never understand. The thing about making choices and making decisions that are beneficial for you at the time you make them, people are always going to criticize, people are always going to judge because they don't know the thought process behind why you do what you do. And this is the thing that most of us get caught up in when we look at other people through our own lens and see the things that they do, see the the judgment calls they make. And we're quick to criticize and quick to look at it from an eye of, that ain't what I would have done. Because you don't know the reason why they made that choice. Just like we don't know the reason why you made your choice. Every decision that anyone chooses to make, there's something behind that choice that we may never know, that we may never understand, and that we may not be privy to because it ain't none of our business. But before we are so quick to criticize or judge what someone else chooses to do in this life, pause for a minute. Pause for a minute. Look at it through a clear lens. Look at it through the lens that you don't know the whole story about why they made that decision at that time. Just like we don't know why you made the decision you made at that time because we may not know the whole story. As they always say, there's that side, there's this side, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. But we're so quick to judge by what we see at the moment that we don't see all the other effects that were going on before that decision was made. It's like making the decision to do something at your job without knowing the full process of what needs to be done to make it complete. You think it through, and you always think about what's going to happen long term by what has happened in the past. Be sure, be sure that before you criticize and before you judge and before you come out of your mouth to tell somebody they were wrong about something, that you know the backstory, that you know everything about the reasoning of why they chose to do what they chose to do. And on the other end of it, stop being so nosy about what somebody else chooses to do. If they didn't include you in the process, what you worrying about it for? Your business is your business. And if they choose not to share their business with you, and if you choose to judge or criticize, keep it to yourself because you don't know the whole story. You only know one part. That's like opening a book, reading page one, and going all the way back and reading the last page and say that you read the whole story. If you don't know the middle parts, the beginning and the end really don't matter because all the meat's in the middle. But that's what we do. And something causes us to judge and criticize what we see at the time, not knowing what the before effects were and not knowing what the end goal may have been for what that person was choosing to do. You can't judge or criticize my choices without knowing my reasons. Let's start giving people the benefit of the doubt on why they do what they do. But at the same time, mind your business. Mind your business. Because sometimes, unless they want you involved in their process, unless they want you to be involved in what's going on with them, it ain't none of your business. Keep your business to yourself and stop putting your business out there. And a lot of times people won't have anything to judge or to be judgmental about or to be criticized about if you don't give them the fuel for the fire. Just my opinion. Let's go and wrap this up. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. As I said, January 6th committee is going to be on a hiatus for a little while. I think they're not starting back up until after the holiday. And that's when I'm going to start back up after the holiday. I'm going to take next week off, not to celebrate. Let's just be real. I'm not one of those people that go out and celebrate July 4th. I recognize it because of what it stands for this country. Celebrate it, different conversation. I recognize it for what it is with this country, but I don't celebrate it for what everyone else feels they need to celebrate it for. That's just me. You have yours, I have mine. But I won't be on next week. I'm going to take a long weekend and just get myself back together. Let my body recoup, let my mind recoup. You know, I'm under the weather a little bit with this, I don't know, sinuses or whatever, but I'm going to be back the week after. So we won't be on next week. We'll be on the week after. Tune in, keep continuing to listen, and understand something. As I always say, and I shouldn't have to say this, but I always say it, these conversations that we have on this show, these things that I bring up on here, as much as people don't want to look at it, and as much as I try to take it, it's not black and white. It has nothing against black being against white or anything, but my experience is my experience. Your experience is your experience. How you see things may be different than mine, but the way I see it is the way I'm going to speak on it. That's why I created Speak on the Show. It's for me to be able to put out there in the atmosphere exactly how I see it, and hopefully we can all to agree to disagree on what your views are and what my views are, and come to a happy medium so we can coexist. There's no right, there's no wrong, there's understanding. And understanding is something that we need more in this country and in this world. If we can understand the trials and tribulations that you may be going through may not be the same as what I'm going through or what I've been through. And we have an understanding that your travels may not be the same as mine, but we can come to a happy medium and understand that at the end of the day, we all bleed the same, we all breathe the same, and we all are looking for the same thing: peace. We're looking for peace, not only in our home, but in our lives. And with all of us trying to get to that happy medium, the only way we can get there is have an understanding of the other person's trials and tribulations, the other person's travels, and the other person's experience. You know, I hear people say all the time, well, you didn't experience slavery. No, I didn't. And even though I didn't experience it, doesn't get you to judge on whether I truly understand or have some understanding of what they may have gone through during slavery. If you were never a Klansman, I can never tell you that you understand what true racial hatred is all about. And I would never do that. But don't minimize what I understand to be a struggle on my side by me minimizing what's a struggle on your side. It's a happy medium there. When we call out what's going on with white nationalists and white supremacists and things like that, we don't put everybody in the same category. We're just making you aware of what's going on. We're not calling everybody a white nationalist and white supremacist. Just like I don't think everybody calls me the N-word. But at the same time, I know there's people out there that look at me in that manner. So don't judge my journey by what you think it should be, by what it truly is. That's all I'm saying. Michelle Long, appreciate your support. Appreciate your support. Thank you for always tuning in. Russell Jenkins, well said. Speak on the Show. Continue to listen in. Go back and listen to the old shows. They're all uploaded on YouTube and on the social media platforms. And as I always say, and well, as I said, I can't remember the date, but I think it's the week after next. Not next week, but the week after next. Tune in. We'll be back. I appreciate y'all. Love yourself. Love one another. Keep your head up. And most definitely keep your faith in God. John Chaney, I appreciate your support, bro. Good morning, King. And I'm out. I'll holler at y'all next week. In 2 weeks. Peace.